There was a time, not so long ago, when memories had a color, yellow, a bright, hopeful yellow. It lived in a small cardboard box. It held our history, first steps, graduations, weddings, the Kodak moment. It was a promise of permanence, that this feeling, this instant, would last forever. What if the company that owned memories chose to forget the future? This isn't a story about failure. It's a story about fear. If this story already has you hooked, if you feel the weight of that question, subscribe and turn on notifications. You need to see how it ends. In 1976, the Eastman Kodak Company was a giant, unstoppable, an American titan. They didn't just lead the market. They were the market. 90% of all film sold in America. 85% of all cameras. Their name was a verb. Their logo, an institution. They built an empire on a simple, brilliant model. Give away the razor, sell the blades. The cameras were cheap. The film, the paper, the chemicals, that was the gold mine. An annuity that printed money for 100 years. They were invincible, or so they thought. But deep inside the giant's castle, a prophet was at work. His name was Steve Sasson, a young engineer, 25 years old. He wasn't trying to start a revolution. He was just curious. His bosses gave him a simple task. Explore a new piece of tech, a charge-coupled device. A, C, C, D. Could it be used for anything? Sassoon had an idea. A crazy idea. What if you could capture an image without film? He went to work in a back lab, scavenging parts. A movie camera lens, a digital cassette recorder, an analog to digital converter, circuit boards wired by hand. It was a monster, the size of a toaster, weighing 8 pounds, ugly, clumsy. But it did something magical. In December of 1975, Sasson aimed his creation at a lab assistant. Click. The image vanished into the machine. For 23 agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then, on a flickering television screen, it appeared, a grainy black and white 0.01 megapixel image, the world's first digital photograph. It was slow. It was low quality, but it was a miracle. It was the future. Sasson took his miracle to the leaders of Kodak. He gathered them in a conference room, the men who ran the Golden Empire. He explained his filmless camera. He showed them the image on the screen. And then silence. They saw the technology, but they didn't see the opportunity. They only saw the threat. "That's cute," one executive finally said, "but don't tell anyone about it." They asked him when he thought this technology could ever be viable. Sassoon did the math. Moore's law. He estimated 15 to 20 years. The executives breathed a sigh of relief. So far away, a lifetime in business. A problem for another day, another generation. They had a perfect business model. Why would they ever want to destroy it? Why would they kill the golden goose for a strange digital egg? They had the future in their hands, a future they had invented, and they chose to bury it. What would you have done in that room, faced with a choice that could save your company by first destroying your main source of profit? Leave your honest answer in the comments below. This was the moment, the fork in the road, the birth of the innovator's dilemma. Kodak patented Sasan's technology. They locked the future in a vault and continued to sell the past. For a while, it worked. The 80s and 90s were boom years. Profits soared. The yellow boxers kept flying off the shelves. They saw the digital storm clouds gathering. They just believed they were big enough, strong enough to weather it. They believed they could control the pace of change. They were wrong. The world doesn't wait for giants to wake up. Competitors emerged. Sony, Canon, Fuji. Companies without a film empire to protect. They were hungry. They were fast. They embraced the digital world that Kodak had birthed and abandoned. In 1995, the first consumer digital cameras hit the market. Exactly when Steve Sasan had predicted, Kodak finally entered the race. But they were late. They were hesitant. They treated digital as a side project, not the main event. Their products were always one step behind, always trying to protect the film business. They released cameras that were intentionally lower quality, hoping people would still prefer to print their photos. They were playing a game they had invented, but they were losing badly. The turn of the millennium was a tidal wave. Digital cameras got better, cheaper, faster. Suddenly, film felt ancient, slow, expensive, inconvenient. The Kodak moment was being replaced by a JPEG file, instantly viewable, infinitely shareable, free. The giant began to stumble. Layoffs started, then factory closures. The bleeding wouldn't stop. They made one last desperate bet. Printers. They thought they could pivot from selling film to selling ink. The same business model in a new century. But the world had changed again. A new device was coming. The smartphone, a camera that was always with you, connected to the internet. In 2010, an app called Instagram launched. Its logo, a retro-looking camera, a nostalgic nod to the past. While Instagram was building a billion-dollar empire on digital photos, Kodak was dying. On January 19, 2012, the unthinkable happened. The Eastman Kodak Company, the 130-year-old institution, the keeper of our memories, filed for bankruptcy. The giant had fallen, killed by a future it had seen first. Today, trillions of photos are taken every year, on iPhones, on Galaxies, on Pixels, shared instantly across the globe. Steve Sasan's invention didn't just change photography, it changed the world. It changed how we connect, how we remember, how we live. Kodak gave him an award in 2009, a quiet acknowledgement of the profit they ignored. Their story is not just a business case. It's a tragedy, a cautionary tale written in the bright, fading yellow of a forgotten memory. Kodak's story is a warning about what happens when we fear the future more than we embrace it. If it made you think, imagine the stories of those who made the opposite choice. Subscribe and watch this video next to see how one company bets everything on a revolution